What if I told you that building an e-commerce business today requires exactly $3, 93 days, and absolutely zero physical inventory?
I mean, it sounds crazy, right?
Right, because for decades, we've just been fed this deeply ingrained myth about what it actually takes to start a business.
Yeah, we're completely conditioned to picture these massive existential financial risks, like, signing a 5-year commercial lease for a brick-and-mortar space.
Oh yeah, the classic storefront.
Exactly. Commissioning a giant neon sign and buying $100,000 of inventory before a single customer even walks through the door.
But when you step into modern e-commerce, that whole neon sign paradigm is just, it's completely shattered.
Yeah, totally.
And look, whether you're a curious learner trying to decode the digital economy or, you're sitting there right now prepping to launch a side hustle, you already know the sheer volume of options out there can feel incredibly paralyzing.
Oh, it is the absolute definition of information overload.
Hmm.
I mean, we are surrounded by thousands of gurus pushing courses, endless software tools promising overnight success.
Right, the get-rich-quick stuff.
Yeah, and it just leads to this cycle of decision fatigue that traps people in a state of, well, permanent planning.
Yeah, permanently getting ready to start. So our mission for this deep dive is to cut through that noise. We are unpacking a highly detailed 22-minute comprehensive blueprint titled Getting Started with Shopify, from idea to first sale.
It's a great source.
It really is, and we are going to extract the definitive shortcut to launching a profitable store without falling into those expensive, time-wasting traps that swallow up almost every beginner.
And we really have to establish right up front that this isn't merely a technical manual about, dragging and dropping photos onto a web page.
Right.
What we're really examining here is an exercise in severe discipline and capital allocation. Like this is a psychological playbook just as much as a technical one.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before you even register a domain name, right? Before you think about brand colors or logos, there is this brutal 60-second filter you have to pass.
Yes.
You have to validate if this specific platform is even the right vehicle for your idea.
Because Shopify is a fully hosted e-commerce platform, and the data suggests it fits roughly 80% of new sellers. But to find out if you actually belong in that majority, you have to answer 4 specific questions.
Okay, lay them on me.
First, are you actually selling a product? If you are renting out your time, say, as a consultant or a freelance designer.
Like creating hours for dollars.
Exactly. Then you need a scheduling and booking tool, not an inventory catalog.
Right, that makes sense. So second question from the guide. Do you have a real identifiable buyer? And I love this part. Anyone who likes nice things is not a target audience.
No, it's really not.
If you can't describe your ideal buyer clearly enough to reach them with a $10 a day ad budget, then you don't actually have a business concept yet.
That's a huge trap. And the third filter looks at fulfillment. So can you fulfill your orders reliably from day one? I mean, the most beautifully designed website in the world will not fix a broken supply chain.
Yeah, if the product doesn't show up, you're dead in the water.
Exactly. And the final question, are you comfortable operating within a hosted, opinionated platform? You are essentially trading deep back-end flexibility for speed and stability.
Meaning, you play by their rules, but it works out of the box.
Right. If your business requires highly complex B2B logic or like custom server architecture, you really need to look elsewhere.
Okay, so assuming you pass all 4 of those questions, you're clear to proceed.
Yep.
But here is where ambitious beginners hit the very first major trap, which is over-engineering the legal foundation.
Oh, this happens constantly.
Right. People will spend weeks forming LLCs and filing for an EIN, an employer identification number, which, functions kind of like a social security number for your business. And they do all this before they've made a single sale. It reminds me of building a massive titanium bank vault before you've earned a single dollar. You're just blowing all your starting capital to protect an entirely empty room.
That bank vault analogy perfectly captures the trap. I mean, the procrastination is basically disguised as preparation.
Yes.
But, to play devil's advocate here, the fear of personal liability is a very real psychological barrier. People are terrified of someone suing them and going after their personal savings.
But wait, isn't it incredibly risky to operate without an LLC? Like, don't you actually need that legal separation immediately to protect your assets?
This raises an important question, and it's exactly why the blueprint uses a staged approach to the legal setup. You have to handle the risk appropriate to the actual phase you are in.
Okay.
When you are pre-launch, doing the bare minimum is the smartest move. Operating simply as a sole proprietor is perfectly fine. You can register a DBA, doing business as name, for somewhere between $0 and $50.
Really? Just 50 bucks.
Yeah, at most. That mechanism allows you to legally operate and accept money under your brand name without the heavy corporate structure.
Well, forming an LLC might cost you, what, anywhere from $50 to $500, not to mention the recurring annual filing fees.
Exactly. You simply do not need the liability shield of an LLC until you have consistent revenue. Usually the guide defines that as clearing $5,000 to $10,000 a month, or until the very moment you start hiring contractors.
So until then, you're just bleeding cash for no reason.
Right. Pre-sale, only 2 legal steps are absolutely non-negotiable, and they're
Mm.
practically free. 1. Open a separate business bank account to keep your personal and business money completely untangled.
Crucial.
And 2, register to collect sales tax in your home jurisdiction. You just defer the heavy legal work until the business proves it can actually survive.
Okay, so we've successfully bypassed the lawyer fees and preserved our capital. Naturally, that brings us to the next massive hurdle, which is inventory.
The scary part.
Yeah. How do we get products to sell without just, transferring our risk to a warehouse full of unsold boxes?
Sourcing inventory is the true graveyard for new merchants. Burning $20,000 on inventory before a single sale is the single most destructive mistake a beginner can make.
I can imagine. So what's the alternative?
Well, there's a spectrum to sourcing. On one side, you have wholesale purchasing or producing your own custom goods. The upside there is high control and massive margins, sometimes up to 80%.
Okay, sounds good.
But the downside, you are putting thousands of dollars on the line with lead times that can stretch for months.
Right. Which brings us to the exact opposite end of the spectrum, according to the source, drop shipping and print on demand. For anyone unfamiliar, how do these models actually work mechanically to just eliminate that risk?
Yeah, it's cool because the flow of money is completely reversed. In a traditional wholesale model, you buy 1,000 coffee mugs, store them in your garage, and just pray someone buys them.
Right.
In dropshipping or print on demand, a customer pays you $30 for a mug on your website first. Only after you have your money secured do you turn around and pay a supplier $10 to print and ship that single mug directly to the customer. You hold zero physical inventory.
Wow. Sure, your margins drop down to maybe 15 to 40%, but your upfront financial risk is literally zero.
Exactly. That is the secret to surviving the first 60 to 90 days. You use dropshipping strictly as a validation tool to test if the market actually wants what you're selling.
Smart.
Then, once a specific hero product consistently clears $3,000 to $5,000 a month in profit, then you take that validated cash flow and invest it into wholesale inventory for better margins.
Validating demand before you write the big check. I love that. And this philosophy of speed and low cost ties perfectly into a brilliantly structured concept we found in the guide called the 93-day runway.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, so you grab a standard 3-day free trial, which is then followed by a promo that gives you 3 multi-platform access for just $1 a month. Right. That means you have a full 3 months to build, test, and launch your entire store for roughly $3 before the standard $39 basic plan kicks in.
It completely subverts traditional retail economics. But, during that 93-day runway, you still have to build the storefront.
Right.
And there's always a temptation here to hire an expensive agency to build something highly custom. But the data strongly suggests that 95% of new merchants should just use a free built-in template like the Horizon theme and do it themselves.
Yeah, keep it lean.
Unless you already have significant traffic and like 10 grand burning a hole in your pocket, paying an agency yields a terrible return on investment compared to spending that same money on great product photography or ads.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. When you are building out the site yourself, the guide points out there are 6 absolute essentials you have to hit: theme, products, payments, shipping, taxes, and policies.
Right, the core pillars.
And under the product section, there is a hard, inflexible rule. 5 to 10 high-quality listings will beat 100 mediocre ones every single time.
Quality conveys trust, while volume just creates decision fatigue.
Yeah, it's like walking into a roadside diner that hands you a 20-page menu.
Oh, the worst.
You inherently know without a shadow of a doubt that the kitchen is just microwaving everything in the back.
Right.
Focus conveys quality.
That's so true. And the perfectionism trap is very real during this build phase. People obsess over minor font choices while completely ignoring the critical, boring infrastructure.
Like what?
Case in point, taxes and policies.
Because literally nobody wakes up excited to draft a terms of service page. It's incredibly dry.
It is so dry. But failing to set up clear refund, shipping, and privacy policies is the #1 driver of early chargebacks.
Really?
Yeah. If a customer can't easily find your return policy, they don't even bother emailing you. They just call their credit card company and dispute the charge. Furthermore, missing privacy pages can put you in direct violation of major consumer data laws. If you are selling globally, you have to comply with GDPR in Europe or CCPA in California, which dictates strictly how you handle customer data.
And the platform actually has templated workflows for all of this. You just spend 30 boring minutes generating these pages in week 1, and it pays off massively the moment your first customer has an issue.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's recap. Our store is live for $3. We have a highly focused menu of products, and our legal and policy safety nets are quietly hanging in the background.
Sounds good so far.
But a beautiful storefront without proper margins is just a financial black hole. If we want to survive, we have to look under the hood at the math.
Yeah, the transition from store design to unit economics is a brutal reality check. Pricing your products is not guesswork. It is pure arithmetic.
Let's break down the gross margin rule. You take your selling price, subtract the cost of the goods, and divide by the price. That number has to be at least 50%.
It has to be.
The guidance here is incredibly blunt. If your gross margin is below 30%, paid ads can never, ever be profitable at any scale. You are literally just subsidizing Facebook and Google's revenue.
Yeah, you're just paying for Mark Zuckerberg's yacht.
Exactly. But I have to push back here a little bit. What if I've poured my heart into a premium digital product? Or on the flip side, what if I'm dead set on selling consumer electronics? Does that rigid 50% rule apply universally?
What's fascinating here is how the baseline economics shift drastically based on the category you choose.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you are selling digital products like templates or courses, your margins are going to sit in the 85 to 95% range because you have zero physical fulfillment or shipping costs.
Right, just a download.
Yeah, so you can afford to spend aggressively on ads. But electronics, the margins there are a brutal 15 to 30%. There is almost no room to pay for customer acquisition, handle the inevitable high return rate, and still take home a profit.
Wow.
Yeah, first-time merchants are explicitly warned to stay far, far away from electronics.
So let's say you're sitting safely at that 50% margin. There's another formula we need to unpack from the source. Break-even return on ad spend, or ROAS.
Oh, this is vital.
It's simply 1 divided by your gross margin. So at a 50% margin, your break-even ROAS is 2.0. If your ads are returning anything less than $2 for every single dollar you spend, you are actually losing money on every sale.
Which flows directly into the ratio of customer acquisition cost to lifetime value CAC to LTV. Your customer's lifetime value needs to be at least 3 times what it costs to acquire them.
Okay, let's make this tangible.
Sure. Say your CAC, what it costs to get a customer to click an ad and buy, is $20. Your customer lifetime value needs to be at least $60.
But wait, why exactly a 3-to-1 ratio? Why isn't 2-to-1 enough to be profitable?
It's because of how the pie gets sliced. The first $20 pays for the marketing just to get the customer in the door. The next $20 covers a physical product, the packaging, and the shipping. That leaves the final $20 as your actual operating margin to cover software, taxes, and, your own profit.
I see.
If your lifetime value is only 2 times your acquisition cost, you are just running a charity for your suppliers and ad platforms.
That is a harsh wake-up call, which means to track all of this, your analytics have to be absolutely flawless before you spend a dime.
Yes, non-negotiable.
The guide lists 4 mandatory tools: the built-in Shopify Analytics, Google Analytics 4, the Meta Pixel, and the Conversion API. Now, tracking Pixel makes sense to me. It monitors what people do on the site. But this Conversion API requirement? Why is that a matter of life and death for an ad budget?
To understand this, we really have to look back at the iOS 14.5 update Apple rolled out a few years ago.
Right, the privacy update.
Yeah. Apple introduced app tracking transparency prompts, basically asking users if they wanted to be tracked.
Right.
And millions of people said no. That effectively broke traditional browser-based tracking pixels for 20 to 35% of all audiences. Think of a traditional pixel like a greeter at the front door writing down customer names. But Apple suddenly handed a third of your customers invisible cloaks.
Oh, wow. So Facebook or Google basically has no idea who just bought the product?
Precisely. the ad algorithm becomes completely blind. Server-side tracking, which is what the conversion API is, fixes this by bypassing the browser blockers entirely.
How does it do that?
Instead of relying on the browser, it's like a cashier at the back of the store, quietly looking at the secure credit card receipts and directly calling Facebook's servers to say, hey, John just bought this.
That's clever.
Yeah. If you don't enable this server-side connection, your ad dashboard will show 0 conversions, the algorithm optimizes for the wrong people, and your budget just evaporates.
Taking the invisible cloaks off so your ads actually work, I mean, that is a terrifying mistake to make if you don't know the tech.
It really is.
So the math works, the tracking is bulletproof, and the store is ready. Now comes the launch. But what blew my mind in the material is that the launch isn't treated as a single ribbon-cutting event where you, pop champagne.
No, not at all.
It is laid out as a highly disciplined 30-day diagnostic playbook.
It basically applies the scientific method to e-commerce. Beginners treat the first month as a chaotic, let's throw pasta at the wall and see what sticks, period.
Right.
Successful merchants treat it as a 4-week cycle where you isolate one variable at a time.
Let's break down those 30 days. Week 1 is entirely about traffic. You aren't trying to become a millionaire. Your singular goal is just to get 500 to 1,000 sessions on the site.
Yeah, just eyeballs.
You run lean ad tests to see if people even click, and you watch the bounce rate. You don't tweak your logo or rewrite product descriptions yet, because without traffic, you have no real data to tell you what's actually broken.
And once you secure those 1,000 sessions, week 2 is conversion. Now you diagnose the drop-offs. Let's say your add-to-cart rate is below 5%. That tells you your product pages, like your photos, your copy, your pricing, are failing to persuade.
Got it.
But what if they add to cart and your checkout completion is below 50%? That usually means a hidden shipping cost or a clunky payment process is scaring them away at the absolute last second.
That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, so week 3 then shifts to retention, specifically setting up automated email flows.
Yes.
You build a welcome series, but the absolute goldmine here is the abandoned cart emails. When someone leaves items in their cart, these automated emails pull them back. The data shows these default flows can recover between 3 and 14% of abandoned carts.
It's massive.
That is literally free revenue that most beginners just leave sitting on the table.
Which brings us to the crucible. Week 4, decide. This is where emotional discipline comes in. You look at your customer acquisition cost. You look at your average order value. If the unit economics from our math section are working, you double down and scale your ad spend. If they're failing, if you're spending $40 to acquire a $20 customer, you pivot. You change the product or you change the audience.
But to even execute this playbook, you need traffic. And the one-channel rule is crucial here. The natural instinct for a beginner with, say, a $50 budget is to spend $5 a day on Facebook, $5 on TikTok, and $5 on Google. You want to be everywhere at once.
Yeah, but spreading a small budget across multiple platforms produces noise, not signal. Think of it like trying to water a massive front lawn with a tiny travel-sized spray bottle.
Oh, I like that.
You're misting everything, but nothing is actually getting enough water to take root and grow.
So what does this all mean? You need to take a garden hose and soak one specific flower bed.
Exactly. You have to concentrate your resources. There's a marketing matrix in the guide to help you choose that flower bed. If you have a highly visual lifestyle product, like apparel or skincare, you belong on Meta or TikTok. If you have a high-intent search product like a specific car part or a specialized B2B tool, you belong on Google Shopping.
Right.
You pick one single channel, stick with it for 60 days, and concentrate at least $300 to spend there. That is how you generate statistically significant data.
Wow. So the real waste in month 1 isn't the Shopify subscription fee. It's spraying untargeted ad dollars across the internet and learning absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Looking back at everything we've pulled from this guide today, the core philosophy is undeniable. Speed and validation trump perfection.
Every time.
You don't need a custom agency, you don't need months of agonizing over business plans, and you definitely don't need a massive warehouse of inventory. You need a clear buyer, a free storefront, 50% gross margins, and the ruthless discipline to launch within 2 weeks so you can start measuring actual customer behavior.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a fascinating paradox to consider. Through this 93-day runway, you can fully validate a business concept for roughly $400.
Yeah, incredible.
Let's contrast that with our starting point today. Traditional retail, where a test meant locking into a 5-year commercial lease and buying $100,000 in inventory up front. The barrier to entry and the financial cost of failure have essentially evaporated in the digital age.
Which changes the entire game.
It really does. It forces us to ask a difficult question. Has the ultimate challenge of entrepreneurship fundamentally shifted? Like, the hardest part is no longer the logistics of actually starting a business.
Right.
The hardest part is having the emotional discipline to look at cold, hard data, accept that an idea isn't working, and kill it quickly without ego so you can pivot to something that does.
The neon sign and the 5-year lease are relics of the past. The tools are virtually free, the runway is fully mapped out, and the only real obstacle left is your own perfectionism.
So true.
So next time you're staring at that side hustle idea, run it through this ruthless mathematical lens. Put it through the 60-second filter, check the margins, and see if you have the discipline to launch it in a week. As always, a lot to think about. Until next time, thanks for diving deep with us.